Hey gang, Mark Sweeney here from Austin Dental Spa in beautiful Austin, Texas. It's Wisdom Wednesday. If you've been a follower of Wisdom Wednesday, you know that we went dark last week for the last Wednesday in May, in May, because we had some technical difficulties and some human being issues, HR probabilities. I was available, but there was nobody to hold the camera, so we just called it for the month of May, which was an extra Wednesday anyway. But now here we are in the month of June, and if you know anything about Wisdom Wednesdays, you know that we always have a new theme every month, and the theme for the month of June is Get Tuned in June. And so this week particularly, we're tuning in to the fact that I'm turning 70 on Sunday, June 11th. And so that's my tune in for this week. I'll have something a little more creative next week. But anyway, we're going to come to you each week with things that you can tune into, maybe health-wise, dental-wise, that'll get you more tuned in with the world. And so that's our theme for the month of June. We've got a couple little administrative issues coming up. As you may already know, we passed the first round of the best in Austin, and now we're into the second round, which starts on Friday, June 9th. On Friday. The voting starts again. I don't know why they do this. They don't ask me before they run these contests, but you can vote every day. You put in your email address the first time, and you can vote every day for about 2 weeks. And so I'll keep you informed as we get towards the end of it, but it starts on June 9th and runs through like June 20 something. And so anyway, we'll be keeping you informed, but I sure would appreciate you continuing to support us. There's a competitive field, 5 in each category now. Last round was an at-large, and now they've narrowed it down to the 5 finalists in each category. We, again, as every year, made top 5 in Best Dentist, Mark Sweeney, and Best Cosmetic Dentist, Austin Dental Spa, the whole place. So we made it in both categories. So next time around will be they'll finalize it to a final 3, and then they'll have a big shindig in like late August, early September, and they'll announce a winner. So we're in it to win it. And so your votes will really help us. We would appreciate any support you can give us. So starting midnight on Thursday night, so first thing Friday, you're able to vote every day in all those different categories. Best breakfast burrito, best place to have brunch, best outdoor patio, everything. Best veterinarian, best dentist, whatever. So that's going on. And as you may know from last week, we talked about a food group that can help your heart and make you healthier. If you want to go back and look at any of the things that we've talked about in past Wisdom Wednesdays, if you're fairly new to Wisdom Wednesdays, we've archived them all on Facebook, and we're working on getting them all archived and closed captioned on YouTube. So we've got our own YouTube channel, Austin Dental Spa. So tune in there and check out previous Wisdom Wednesdays. A lot of good information there. So today is no difference. We're going to talk about 2 different things that are kind of interrelated. Can positive attitude actually stimulate your immune system and make you less likely to have heart attack, strokes, and other issues like that? And the big question and controversy about aspirin. My doctor has had me taking a 1/4 grain of aspirin, small dose aspirin, for more than the 10 years that I've been going to him, and he still, I'm sure, recommends that for all his patients for heart health, because it does thin your blood. But there's a recent study out that you might find interesting on that exact subject. So we're going to go to that first, and then we'll get to the positive attitude stuff second. Is aspirin really that good for you? Well, it's been kind of anecdotal stuff, by the way. But nobody has a hard scientific double-blind study showing that aspirin actually does reduce your risk of heart attack or stroke by thinning said blood. But now, newest research that just came out recently was that the guidelines are that people should only routinely take aspirin, and that's low dose aspirin, like quarter grain of aspirin, only if they've already had a heart attack or a stroke, but certainly not if they are already on blood thinners, because it does tend to thin your blood. So this recent study was published recently in the Journal of the American Medical Association. They had nearly 17,000 adults, 17,000 people. So that's a pretty good study. And they were randomly decided about 50-50, half of them, and it was close to 50-50 men and women. It was 55% women, 45% men. They all were over 74 years old. So the average age of the participants was 74, but they were all over 70. And they followed them for a period of 5 years. And they found that that the people that took aspirin and the people that did not take aspirin, they gave half of them a placebo. So both pills looked the same, but one was low-dose aspirin and the other was a placebo. And they found that it's sort of interesting stuff. There was no difference in the risk of fracture. They found that those that were taking aspirin, this is probably just coincidental, 8.6% of those taking aspirin were had a tendency to fall, and 9.5% of those taking the placebo did. So there's pretty close, no real difference there. But the big surprise was that the people who were taking the aspirin had a higher rate of serious incidents when they did fall. They had more bruising, they had more bleeding, and they had just as many broken bones as the people that were not taking aspirin. So it kind of it makes you wonder about some of the stuff that they're talking about with aspirin. Plus, there is the fact that aspirin has some not so great side effects if you take it in too high of a dosage. I've got quite a few patients, at least a couple of dozen, that are allergic to aspirin. And if they take an aspirin, they have a serious allergic reaction. And aspirin is salicylic acid, so it is acidic with a low pH. It can cause, in excess amounts, it can cause stomach acid, and so stomach ulcers, intestinal distress, and the thinning effect, like we just mentioned in that study, is thinning your blood. If you don't really need for it to be that thin, you're going to bruise more easily, and you're going to bleed longer when you do get a cut or a bruise or something. So the thing that people have talked about, that people that take aspirin have more bone density. I've actually read studies that said that, and this study disproves that and says that they did not find that people that were taking low-dose aspirin for a period of 5 years had any less bone fractures than people who did not. So now the next one. This should put a smile on your face. We've always heard, put on a happy face, and we've always also heard that if you're happy, you just naturally smile. But did you know it works the other way around? If you're not so happy and you're not having a great day, it can work in reverse. They've done studies on this now, that if you force yourself to put a smile on your face and walk with a little more of a jump in your step, that it actually can work in reverse and tell your brain that you're happy by going through these motions, and it increases the serotonin levels and makes you, and the pheromones or whatever, and makes you feel happier in reverse. So what does that have to do with heart attacks and your immune system, though? Well, there's a study that's come out that showed that people who had a positive outlook on life. This was Johns Hopkins University did this study. People that had a positive outlook on life were 1/3 less likely to have a heart attack over a 5 to 25 year period. Now, I didn't give specifics. They didn't follow these people for 25 years, I don't think, in the study, but I didn't get that detail in it. But that's what they said from Johns Hopkins, is that 1/3 less likely to have a heart attack if they had a positive outlook. Now, they gave people a personality test to determine whether they were positive or pessimistic people. But the woman who led the study is a cardiologist, fairly well known, and she said, you don't really have to do a study, that people sort of know which one they are, whether they're an optimist or a pessimist. And I could say that's pretty true. You be around somebody for a little bit, you see whether they have a negative or a positive outlook. Put a half a glass of water in front of them, and if they see the glass is half full, they're one way. If they see the glass is half empty, that's an old joke. But anyway, there are people that see the world basically positive versus negative. They also found that people who had a positive versus a negative outlook of life tended to be more cheerful, have a higher energy level, their anxiety levels were lower, and so it affected their body in numerous ways. And they even found an effect on the immune system, that people with a cheerful outlook tended to have stronger immune systems. People that had a negative outlook on life sort of expected that they were going to get sick and get the flu every year, and so they called in sick more often. So it's also could have something to do, and this is not scientific, but just conjectural, that people with a positive outlook on life have a little more hope in human nature and that everything's going to turn out well in the world. So, but it's clear that there is a link between being positive and being healthier. So go to work on that. See if you can get a more positive outlook on life. And here's some health tips to go along with that. Nice little segue. I give a health tip every week. Smile more. Even if you don't feel like it. Like I said, if you just force yourself to smile, your body doesn't know that you're forcing yourself to smile. Your brain might be thinking it, but the rest of your body just reacts to the fact that you're smiling. Other people around you might be happier too to see that you're smiling, saying, wonder what she's smiling about. But it might make you just feel happier. So try it. You can practice reframing negative events. If you're stuck in traffic, don't focus on the traffic. Focus on the fact that, hey, put on a station with your favorite songs and do a little jamming out. You got an opportunity if you're stuck on Mopac in bumper-to-bumper traffic, like I find fairly regularly. If I'm going home at the end of the day, it's gotten a little better since summer came, but still, yesterday, stuck for about 15 minutes in traffic, moving very, very slowly and completely stopped at times. I just turned up the radio, jammed out, had a good time, sang along with the songs. You're not going anywhere. You can't control the traffic, but you can control how you decide you want to frame that. So turn it into something positive and get some good out of it. Another tip was build some resiliency. You know what that means, that, if things are getting tough, the old saying, the tough get stronger, but, accept that life is just life and you can't change what's going on around you like the traffic. Build good relationships with your family, with your friends, get more friends and spend more time with them. Those are ways to build your resiliency. So those are ways that you can have a more positive outlook on life and maybe live a healthy. We'll tune in June. See you next week.